Ever notice how, like, a simple ladle can cause a whole bunch of debate?
Mm-hmm.
We're talking, like, nation or minority, words we use all the time, right?
Right.
But then you look closer, and they're not simple at all.
Not at all.
Which brings us to today's deep dive.
Okay.
Bulgaria and its Macedonian minority.
Right.
We're looking at this report, the annual report on the human rights situation of the Macedonian minority in Bulgaria from 2020.
Okay.
And it says things got worse that year for this group.
Yeah, it's really about real people, their identities, their cultures.
Exactly.
It's about how those things are treated within a country.
And this report lays it out there.
It does.
It claims Bulgaria is using the situation like as leverage
Oh, interesting.
with North Macedonia,
Oh,
which adds a whole other layer to
it
this.
does.
It's like they're telling North Macedonia, you want in the EU, you got to agree there's no such thing as a Macedonian minority here.
Wow.
And that's where this international agreement comes in, the Framework Convention on National Minority Rights,
Right. This is important.
which is supposed to protect these groups,
Yes.
their rights
Yeah.
to their language, their culture.
It's all connected.
The report claims Bulgaria is granting none of these rights to Macedonians inside Bulgaria.
Really?
Yeah. This isn't even about politics anymore. It's affecting people's lives. And the report uses quotes from Bulgarian officials to show this.
Like who?
Well, there's one. The prime minister, he's quoted saying he doesn't even know any Macedonians.
Oh, wow.
Imagine being told you don't exist by your own country's leader.
That's heavy.
And from this disconnect, that's where some of the prejudice comes in, according to the report.
What do you mean?
Well, it goes on to talk about hate speech, discrimination. They even list slurs used against Macedonians.
So it's that denial of identity fueling real-world harm.
Exactly. When you're told you don't exist, it's easier to be targeted, I guess.
It's a way of othering them, making it okay to treat them badly.
And it doesn't stop there. The report then details all these attempts to silence Macedonians.
Silence them how?
Organizing, having a voice. Macedonian organizations, they try to officially register, but they're denied over and over.
What's the reason given for those denials?
That's what's striking. The report says Bulgaria claims that recognizing this minority, it would, undermine their national unity.
So they're saying if they acknowledge this group, it'll weaken the whole country.
Yeah, basically.
That's a pretty narrow view of national unity, don't you think?
Right. It makes you question their whole idea of what it means to be Bulgarian. Like, they're scared to admit a part of their population exists.
Right. And it gets even bigger because they're not just ignoring people inside Bulgaria, this report says.
What do you mean?
They're ignoring international pressure, too.
Yeah, they actually talk about that. Like, they want to look united to the world, even if it means going against, what's considered right by, international groups.
Especially legal rulings.
Speaking of which, there's a whole section on the European Court of Human Rights, right?
Yeah.
Judgments against Bulgaria on this very issue.
It shows this isn't just some internal thing, The court, they said Bulgaria violated the European Convention on Human Rights.
Which one specifically?
Article 11, freedom of association. By not letting these Macedonian groups register, they're violating their basic rights.
Bulgaria's kind of stuck then, aren't they?
Yeah.
They've got international pressure, but their own narrative is holding them back. So what's the answer?
Well, the report does offer some solutions, and it's interesting. It's not just about changing laws.
What else?
Changing mindset.
Okay, what are they suggesting?
Big legal reforms. For one,
Like what?
getting rid of laws that discriminate against Macedonians in Bulgaria,
So anything that makes it harder for them to just be Macedonian.
Right, but then it goes further. They talk about actively including them. Education,
Right.
putting Macedonian language, history, culture in schools.
Wow, that's a huge step. It's one thing to stop hurting, but to actually embrace the group you've been trying to erase. Is that even possible after all this?
It's the question, isn't it? Can a whole country change its story like that?
And the politics, it's so tense. Can they really bridge that gap?
The report says it starts with talking. Real talking, not just for show.
That's a big ask, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking years, decades even, of deeply held beliefs. To just talk, can that really change things?
It's a long road, yeah. But this report, it's saying dialogue is the starting point. And not just one conversation, a process, like real listening has to happen.
But how do you even get people to truly listen?
Yeah.
Especially with all this history between them.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's got to be built on respect, being willing to actually hear the other side. It can't be us and them anymore. They have to find that common ground.
That's easy to say, harder to do. But then the alternative's worse, right? If they ignore this, just keep silencing people.
Exactly. That just makes it fester. All that prejudice, nowhere to go. So yeah, these recommendations, they're ambitious, but what else is there? It's the only way forward.
Toward what, though?
Yeah.
What does that future even look like if it works?
Hopefully one where just being Macedonian isn't a threat. Like, you can be Bulgarian and accept them. It doesn't take away from the country. Nobody's identity is up for debate anymore.
A pretty hopeful picture. Think this report has a shot at making that happen.
Could be a catalyst, who knows? Honest, lays it all out there. That's a start, at least.
It is. And in the meantime, we can keep learning about this, asking these tough questions.
Right.
That's what this deep dive's all about, right?
Absolutely. Giving people the information so they can decide for themselves.
Exactly. So to everyone listening, think about this. What we talked about, what it means, even if this deep dive's over, doesn't mean the conversation has to be.